got some in his back pocket. My wallet.
Man, listen. I ain't even look. We got him out the car. We was like, hey, bro, you good? Oh, wow, almost hit me.
You reached for Martin gun.
Then when he
slammed to the
yeah.
car, and he was on. He literally had his hand on Martin gun, like.
Weed, man.
I don't know what that means. And he's strong.
He's strong.
Hey, he's strong as a mother.
Mind that mother.
Hold on a second.
It's the goat, bro.
That's more than dope. That's more than dope.
He caught strong and hot.
That's what it is.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the death of a 29-year-old black male by the name of Tyre Nichols at the hands of 5 also black Memphis police officers on January 10th of this year, 2023. And actually, he didn't die on January 10th. He died 3 days later as a result of the injuries he received from being beaten by these officers. Now, there's a lot I want to say here. There's a lot of different ways we can go about this. If you want to see the footage from the actual event, I can't show that right here on YouTube. I'll link to that in the description box. If you're on IG, please go to the link in the bio, go to my website and the corresponding article. But before we get into any of the details, I just want to say this. This whole thing could have been avoided if Tyre Nichols complies, if he does not resist arrest. That is a fact. Now, I know people are going to be upset at that. How could you say that? They beat him to death. They did too much. They went overboard. I don't even disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. However, what I'm saying about not resisting is a fact. Look, this whole thing started from him resisting. If he doesn't resist arrest, it's like, look, okay, you get pulled over, comply with what they're saying. If they're saying get out the car, show me your hands, give me your license. If they say that, just comply. See, now you want to run away and try to fight the officers. You're just doing way too much. Nothing good can come from that. The officers shouldn't take your life, but what you going to do? Get locked up? Get an additional charge? For what? You're going to get charged with whatever you're going to get charged with. Like, let's say you're riding dirty. You have no license, no insurance or something like that. You might get charged for that. They might even let you go. But when you try to resist and fight and do all that, you're not making it any better on yourself. And the officers, of course, they went overboard. The footage was very graphic. What happened was this. As he's resisting, the officers are trying to get him to cuff up, and they're not having success. So they're striking them. They're hitting them with punches from above. Now, one thing I like to know, I'm not sure who would know this. If anybody has an inside scoop about Memphis police, y'all let me know in the comments. But I want to know if they're prevented from doing some of the George Floyd type maneuvers. You understand? Like the knee on the back or whatever to gain control. Because I did not see them get to the ground and try to gain control that way, like in the wrestling type move. They were just landing strikes from above. And then one guy came in and was kicking like it was like a football type kick. I'm not trying to make a joke. I'm being serious. Like a field goal. It was like that. It was like, what's the point of doing that? Then they brought the baton or the asp or whatever that is, and they were beating them with that. It was unnecessary. But I understand why they were trying to do it, because they were trying to gain control. He was not trying to cuff up. Yes, they did go overboard, but I understand why they were doing it. So I could say those two things at the same time, and they both be true. That they did go overboard, but they did so for a particular reason. Okay? Whatever the case may be, he died later after that in a hospital as a result of his injuries. All officers involved had been fired initially. Now they're being charged. At least 5 of the guys are being charged. I think there were 5 main guys on the scene. Paramedics came later and whatnot, but there's 5 main guys being charged. You're talking about kidnapping and second-degree murder and all type of stuff. I'm not sure if those charges will stick. There might be a little bit of an overcharge there. They may want to try and plead them down to a lesser charge, but I think these guys probably will serve some time because of how graphic the video was. Although, like I said, this could have been prevented if the guy simply complies. Now, there's all kind of protests happening right now. And before I get into that, actually, I want to roll this video because the protests kind of lean into this video actually talking about racism. You have Van Jones of CNN talking about this is a issue of racism, although everyone involved here is black. The police chief of Memphis, black. The entire squad that was out there, beating the guy, these are all black males. And the guy who died himself was also a black male. So everybody involved is black, but somehow we got to blame the white man. I don't understand how that makes any sense. Let's go ahead and just watch this clip and see what they say. And of course, as always, videos, including the actual body cam footage, the sky cam footage, and this particular video shall be in the box, or go to the link in the bio if you're on IG and go to the corresponding article. But let's go ahead and roll it.
5 black officers charged in the killing of an unarmed black man. Now, we often have conversations, Van, about the element of race and the racial dynamic in policing. But I think we all know quite well that when it comes to power, blue trumps black.
So now we're going to shift it. We're going to move the goalposts rather than it being a racial issue, because normally, like, let's say this was 5 white guys on 1 black guy. First of all, this would be considered a hate crime. That's the first thing. Second thing, you have protests happening right now across the country, but they'd be mild in comparison to what's happening right now. You're talking about Atlanta, Georgia, Memphis, Tennessee, everywhere would be on fire. It'd be like when MLK died, and was it 64, 68, whenever that was, it'd be like the equivalent of that. The whole country would burn if this was 5 white guys on 1 black guy. So race only matters when it's a white on black situation. But then when you can't use the race card, you want to shift the goalposts into something else, talking about power, all this and that and the third. But let's see what Van Jones says.
The idea of the race of the person who is victimized, often more telling than the race of the aggressor. What is your reaction?
Yeah, I think it's really important because there's this very simplistic notion that says, well, if a white cop is doing something to an unarmed black person, then that's racism. But we sometimes forget, unfortunately, African Americans can also be guilty of hatred and bias and bigotry against other African Americans. Sometimes you go into a store that's owned by an African American, they're nice to the white folks and suspicious of you. It's not that only one group can harbor anti-black bias. It's so pervasive. And so the other thing that happens is certain neighborhoods are just considered almost by some police departments war zones. Anything goes over there. You know, just do what you have to do. And so black officers can pick up on those kinds of cues, those kinds of signals when nobody gets in trouble for acting a certain way in this neighborhood versus in a white neighborhood. So race is an element here. I can't imagine any police officers delivering that kind of brutal beating to a white male.
Of course, it happens all the time. White guys get beat up all the time. Tony Temple, he died. Like, the thing about when white guys get beat up, killed by police or whatever it is, whether it's justified, which it is 99.9% of the time, it don't really matter when they have something like that happen to them because they're white. So their race does not fit the narrative. When it's a black guy, all of a sudden it becomes a big deal. Okay, same thing with just regular, everyday homicide, murder, whatever it is. If you got a black guy killed by a black guy, who cares, right? Ain't no big deal. If this was just 5 regular black guys killing 1 black guy in Memphis, you wouldn't even hear about it. It wouldn't even be a big story. It'd just be, okay, at best, it'd be local news. At best, it might not make local news. It might not make local news because it wasn't even the shooting. It was a fight or a beating or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't an actual shooting. If there was no gun involved, you might not even hear about it on local news. If it was just regular people involved, the only reason why it's a story is because it's police, and then there's an anti-police bias. And then they want to push a whole narrative about defunding the police and how police are terrorists and whatnot. Meanwhile, in Memphis, the last thing you should be concerned about is the police. The last thing, okay? You got a lot more to be worried about in Memphis than the police. Actually, these guys that did this to this man, unfortunately, are probably your last bastion of hope in a place like Memphis. And as a matter of fact, they were part of a specialized task force, like 50 guys, to combat very violent crime. So, I mean, you're kind of barking up the wrong tree here. Let's keep on going.
Male U.S. citizen. Can you imagine if you had 5 black officers doing that? It's very hard to imagine. I think what has happened is we've become accustomed, black and white officers, to a certain amount of inhumanity being directed in certain neighborhoods with certain suspects, and you saw that play out today.
It's just completely BS, ultimately, you know. And then the white cop really is more likely to be more generous, more hands off, not really trying to hurt you, not really trying to do too much, not really trying to intervene like that, because they know one false move, and it might not even be anything that hurts somebody. It could just be a thing that offends someone. Then they could lose their job, or they can have their lives ruined. And it's to the point now where having your life ruined, going viral on social media is more damaging than losing your job. It's a crazy mess. But as I close, I want to say this. May Tyre Nichols rest in peace and prayers out to his family. I think this was overboard, but some are going to say, I had to add this last part because that's a question, kind of elephant in the room. Some say, well, why did they need all these guys to try and get this one guy down and couldn't even do it? Because when they first tried to apprehend him, he was able to escape their clutches and run away. Then they had to get him again, and he still resisting. They're fighting him tooth and nail, and they just cannot get him down. He's 6'3", 145 pounds. And for reference, I'm the same height. I'm 6'3". I'm 220 pounds right now. He's 145 pounds. Very, very skinny, frail dude. But you can be very strong at that weight if you got something else going on. Now, I'm not trying to make an assumption or an assertion, but I was listening to the body cam footage of the officers after the incident, and they're talking about how strong he was and that it might have been something else at play that made him be that strong. Okay, all the guys that were on him were pretty big, strong guys from the looks of it, but they were not able to get him down. So I think there's a lot more at play here than just, oh, well, he's innocent, unarmed, and they just went overboard. Yes, they did go overboard, but you can't just absolve someone of any kind of accountability just because they were victimized in this kind of way. Like I said, all you got to do is just comply, don't resist, and you live to fight another day. If you think it did something wrong, go to court, get money. Don't try to have court right there in the street, because that battle is just going to be one you're not going to win. Violence doesn't usually happen to somebody in that situation, but what does happen normally is, okay, now you got a warrant. Now you got an arrest record. What could have been a simple ticket citation, all right, go about your day, or a warning, now turn into a crime. And for what purpose? None. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about what happened here with Tyre Nichols? Do you think that the whole thing about resisting is the reason why it happened? Do you think it doesn't matter if he resisted, tried to fight, tried to grab the officer's gun, which I heard that he tried to do? It doesn't really matter what he did. The reaction was unwarranted. Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. Stop resisting. I don't care. People going to call me whatever. I said that on Twitter. I said, people got to start resisting arrest. And I got called all kind of names, but people that called me names did not refute my argument. People that called me names did not say that I was wrong. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. It's just that simple. I've yet to see a video of a person getting beaten by police or dying in police custody that wasn't resisting. Every single video that I've seen involves somebody that was resisting arrest. For what? For what? How are you really going to win that game even if there's no violence afterward? Doesn't make any sense. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.